So here are some of the standing wall tests. We'll go through both the 135 degrees of flexion with scapular adduction, and we'll also go through the 170 degrees of flexion, both with and without shrugging. And again, the main reason why we do this test is to look at the function of the upper traps as we're already in upward rotation. Okay, so, and are people already elevated just in resting position, or are they able to still shrug throughout the motion? So, Sam, what I'm going to have you do is kind of put your ulnar side against the wall, kind of in like a W. What he's going to do is he's going to go at a 135 degree angle, and then we're going to ask him to adduct his shoulder blades, and then come back, and then come back down. So I'm just going to talk about a little bit about what I see. You can maybe see this right side might want to wing a little bit more, or the lower trap here maybe isn't doing as good of a job as the left side. But Sam, can I have you do that a couple times? So again, he's in upward rotation, and then can he adduct his scapula? That's looking at upper traps, or the traps really all together, but upper traps are going to be the prime mover here. Upper, middle, lower, okay? And now we know that the serratus anterior does upward rotation but abduction. So now this is separating kind of that serratus anterior from the upper trap. Go ahead and do it one more time. Again, we're just going to watch for the quality. Are they pretty symmetrical? Can he adduct? Now here we know his lats are already tight, right? So if his lats are tight, he's going to want to extend here. He's doing a pretty good job now. And then come back down. So that's the 135. Now I'm just going to have him come in a little bit. You might have to take a little step. Actually, that looks pretty good. So now we're going to have him here, and we're going to see at the 170 degrees of flexion. And this is just normal. I'm not going to have him shrug. However, to get there, you can see he was shrugging. And then come back down. Same thing though, we should get that upward rotation. You can see he wants to shrug first, and then adduct at the end. So bring your arms off, there we go. And then back down. So you can see the second test we're going to do, he's probably going to do well on, because when he initiates this, he starts to elevate his shoulder blades. Go ahead and do that for me. And then back down. So go ahead and do it normally without the shoulder elevation. So when he normally does it, he already does elevate, right? And so the second test is basically to do the shrug and elevation together. So go ahead and, so the 170 without shrugging is one test. But even on that normal test, Sam likes to shrug a little bit. So do it normally again without the shrug. You can see he just wants to elevate a little bit, especially on the left side. And then we adduct off the wall, and then back down. Now the third test is with the shrug. So we want him to elevate, but elevate his scapula as he flexes his glenohumeral joint. And that's actually quite a bit easier for him, because he's recruiting a dominant upper trap that wants to work. Okay? So that tells us that his upper traps are probably a little bit dominant, which is pretty normal on a lot of people. So again, by him shrugging and flexing at the same time, watch how smooth and easy it is when he shrugs. It just looks like it works well together, right? And then when he comes back down, now try to do it without the shrug, Sam. Just normally flexing. He just has to think about it a little bit harder. It's just not as natural for him. And then come back down. So those are kind of the three standing wall tests that we'll look at for the upper trap. The next two tests are going to look at the abs, and then maybe the lats as well. So I might have to have Courtney move a little bit for this one. But let's have you just lean against the wall for me. Feet about 3 inches away. And then your hands just on your hips. So again, we're just looking at, can he flatten his back against the wall? And what we want to see, if his chest depresses, which most of us are going to want to, that tells us that his rectus abdominis is going to be shorter dominant. You okay? Mm-hmm. That's really hard though, isn't it? He does a pretty good job though. But again, this chest, a lot of people are going to want to kind of depress the chest and get the rectus abdominis firing to get that flat. But now this comes off. Okay, so now if he flexes, go ahead and flex to 180 degrees. Again, we're kind of looking at the lats. We already know his lats are short or stiff, so he's going to have some space there. Again, the pec minor might contribute in the fact that if this is already anteriorly tilted, he's not going to be able to flex as high, right? So the pec minor could be short as well. Okay, so again, pec major could also be short and stiff because part of the pec major can also extend the humerus. So that's why pec major is involved with this as potentially being short. You're going to really get a lot of information on the lats with a lot of these tests as well. So those are the standing tests for Sourman.